Okay, I believe this is part 4 of All This New Black Rock. As Mr. Rahman drove his car past a bread and breakfast on the northern outskirts of Sparks, Nevada. I should put Nevada, I didn't. I think I will. Of Sparks, Nevada. Rahman noticed a sign saying, "Best ham in town." I missed the ham. I admit it. I missed the ham in sandwiches with mustard. I missed bacon. Oh, how I miss the bacon. I miss pork ribs that are crispy on the outside and tender and juicy in the middle, next to the bone. Salted and peppered just right. Oh, Allah, how I miss the pig. Tasty beast that it is, for it is one tasty beast. To try to not think of tasty pork products, Mr. Rahman thought of a video he saw on LiveLeak where a pig was being butchered alive. Hearing the squeals of terror from such an animal brought tears to his eyes, more than at all the screams of humans having their heads sawed off in all its cause. Mr. Rahman reminded himself of Koran 98:6 that said that non-Muslims are the worst of creatures, which would mean that pigs and dogs are better. Mr. Rahman smiled and said with a devious gleam in his eyes, "When I want them again, when I want to have something haramful for me, you, my dog friend, you will be there. When I want to eat ham, you will be there. Whenever I want to color Easter eggs or sculpt pretty naked girls out of clay again, you will be there until I take pictures of them, then destroy the sculptures. If I want cute, sexy girls, if I want to watch cute, sexy girls on TV again, you will be there too. Yes, Ummat, you will be there. And whenever I want to impress Allah, well, you won't be there. Simple as that." Okay, an hour later, Mr. Rahman pulled over to the side of the road. It was time to be on a prayer rug. There was not a car in sight, for those that would be going to Burning Man on the Black Rock Desert wouldn't be there for another 4 months. Nothing was happening in this isolated town of Gerlach, as far as he could tell, which might give him time to do a complete salat, or prayer. Suddenly, Mr. Rahman cursed himself when he noticed that the jug of water for ablution had somehow been punctured, making the container lose most of its contents. Oh, Allah, sometimes I think we aren't the best of people. Mr. Rahman realized there was no water for wudu. How am I going to be able to do wudu and wash my hands, feet, and get Satan out of my nose for sleeping in my nose, being that it's night somewhere in the world, wondered Rahman. On the latter, Rahman worried if he would have any breathing and smelling problems due to not getting Satan out of his nose. According to Muhammad, it took 3 washings of one's nose to remove Satan out of one's nose. As he pondered, he had a flashback to another video of his nemesis Nell Yezmar asking Muslims if it was the Satan or a Satan that sleeps in one's nose at night. Rahman remembered telling Nell Yezmar that he believed it was a Satan that sleeps in your nose at night, not the Satan, or that would mean Satan was as omnipresent, ubiquitous, as God in the before scriptures, Bible. Suddenly, Mr. Rahman remembered that the Quran said that if there was no water for ablution, one could use clean soil, according to Quran 4, verse 43. Mr. Rahman didn't know exactly what clean soil was, but being a very pious Muslim not familiar with what to do with, quote, clean soil, end quote, he scanned his memory to find out what an imam might have told him. None had told him how to wash with clean soil. Rahman remembered in a Pictorial English translation of the Quran that said in verse 4, verse 43, quote, "And if ye be ill, or on a journey, or one of you cometh from the closet, or ye have touched women, and ye find no water, then go to high clean soil, and rub your faces and your hands, wherewith, lo, Allah is benign, forgiving. Since there was no water, Mr. Rahman thought that maybe the dust he'd used on the side of the road would magically turn into high clean soil, becoming a cleansing agent when an angel would see him washing with it. Thus he rolled out his prayer rug, looked at the compass to best face Mecca, and started washing with high clean soil, like the Koran commanded, if there was no water present for ablution to make one clean for Salat, the Muslim prayer. Rahman made sure the dog remained in the SUV to not nullify his prayer, making the ablution and prayer, to not nullify his prayer. Okay, yeah. All right. After rubbing the desert dust and pebbles with his hands, he began to rub his face with it. Rahman knew it sounded crazy, but since he really wasn't quite familiar with that scripture, he then put the dirt and dust behind his ears and in his hair, doing it 3 times as if water. I should say as if it were water. Yeah, as if it were water. Dust was flying everywhere as he performed the tayammum, as he believed it was called when there was no water and one used, quote, high clean soil. When it came to snorting the dirt up his nose, he paused and thought, how is this going to get Satan out of my nose? Maybe Allah will say be and turn it into water so it nearly drowns Satan, making him come out. Maybe, may Allah pray on give and blessing, get him out. Maybe Allah will say be and turn it into water so it's nearly drowned Satan, making him come out. Muhammad, may Allah pray and give him blessing, said it has to be 3 washings to get Satan get Satan out due to his sleeping in the upper interior of our noses at night, and again, somewhere in the world, it is night. Mr. Rahman picked up a handful of dust and thought, maybe if I snort it as if I'm snorting cocaine like Al Pacino in the movie Scarface? Mr. Rahman looked at his car that was 20 feet from him. The dog he kidnapped was looking at him through the windshield, seeming perplexed at what he was doing. Suddenly, Mr. Rahman heard a vehicle coming in the distance. Trying to build up his courage, he thought of the scene in Scarface where Pacino's drug lord character had a desk covered with cocaine. But that is not cocaine. This is clean soil, I think. Yeah, but this is not cocaine. This is clean soil, I think. To make him more accepting of snorting dust up his nose, Mr. Rahman thought back to the time when he was at the Sacramento Zoo as a small boy, feeding peanuts to one of the zoo's elephants through the chain-link fence. He remembered how the elephant he was feeding peanuts to sucked his small arm up into its nose, up to its trunk. I shouldn't say nose, but trunk. I'll say trunk. Up into its trunk. Up into its trunk. Happening so fast that it didn't give him time to be shocked or frightened, only grossed out when he quite suddenly found what seemed to be a sock of mucus and dirt covering his arm, when the elephant used the young Rahman's arm as a type of elephant trunk pipe cleaner. As Mr. Rahman thought back to the time he then so desperately looked for a restroom to wash off the snot sock the elephant fitted for him onto his arm in such a quick fashion, he also remembered that snorting up dust into the nose of an elephant is very common and doesn't seem to hurt the elephant at all. And if not, Why should this snorting the dust up his own nose hurt him? Here goes nothing, Mr. Rahman said with a gulp. He then said, Okay, Satan, slipping in my nose, being that it is night somewhere in the world. Say a lot to my little voodoo dust. In his haste to beat the car, Mr. Rahman grabbed up another handful of dirt as well, since one was to wash one's nose out 3 times for ablution. Mr. Rahman began snorting the dust into his nose as if it were cocaine. Instantly, Mr. Rahman started coughing. He then started wheezing as he felt as he felt his lungs burn from an acrid, stinging, bizarre smell he never smelled before. This must not be the way to do when it is clean soil, he coughed and choked out. Mr. Rahman started freaking out when he felt something moving about in his nasal passages. Could it actually be the Satan? Did I wake up Satan? Rahman began to run about the road screaming and pleading with Allah to remove Satan. No doubt angry from being awakened with voodoo ablution dust, Rahman thought. I have awakened Satan! I have awakened Satan! Mr. Rahman shouted and screamed with terror. Seeing the light, the thing revealed what it was when it crawled out of Rahman's left nostril. It wasn't Satan, but an ant of the red kind. For a moment, Mr. Rahman actually thought it might still be the Satan Muhammad talked of that sleeps in one's nose at night. As the ant climbed about on Rahman's arm, Mr. Rahman looked up at it and asked, Is that you, Satan? Have you taken the form of an ant? You apparently can take on so many shapes, including something big enough for stars to shoot flaming missiles.